Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, I'm here to lecture this evening, and I'm lecturing on chapter 15 of our book, Crimes Against Public Order and Morality. Now, as an introduction, crimes against public order and morality encompass offenses that create public inconvenience and annoyance, that disturb and threaten the peace and tranquility of neighborhoods, and that offend public morality. Crimes against morality raise the issue of victimless crimes and the overreach of criminal law. So of course, if that introduction, we talked about a lot of issues, mainly the overreach of criminal law. In other words, and I'll go into it further. But you have, when we talk about overreach of criminal law, we live in a society that they call America the home of the free. But we probably have more laws on the books and things you can't do than almost any other nation on the globe. Um, so that would make us not really that free. If every act, everything you do, from what you breathe, what shirt you wear, what you say, can be subject to criminal law, then are you really free? When we talk about the crimes we're talking about with crimes against public order and morality, we're talking about victimless crimes. Stuff like noise ordinance violations and stuff of that nature. What you also learn is that some of these laws actually have a racial impetus. I mean, in the beginning. We'll talk a little bit about the black codes and where some of this stuff actually came from. So we have to talk about what they're actually criminalizing and what the history is. So what I want you guys to take from this class in general, at least from my teachings, is the way I teach my class. But I want you to also I want you to always look deeper into laws themselves, like where did it come from. Figure out where is this law coming from, what started, what gave rise to this law. So now, first, let's start with disorderly conduct. Individual disorderly conduct is the purposeful causing of a public inconvenience, annoyance, or alarm. This includes fights, noise, utterances, and hazardous conditions. I think, what was it, back in, what chapter was that? 2, when we talked about the constitutional limitations. We talked about overbreadth and vagueness. What that means is we want laws that are well written that describe what is legal and what isn't. When we have laws that are unclear, what happens is now you give police unfettered discretion. So the police get to become the judge right there on the street. They get to determine and they get to define the law right there as they're enforcing the law, and that's not a good thing. So we want the laws written in a certain way where it describes exactly what's legal and what's illegal. Now, the one thing about some of these crimes we're going to talk about is even specifically disorderly conduct is whether or not you're charged with the crime depends on sometimes the opinion of the law enforcement officer involved. Um, it almost gets to a point where it kind of goes into First Amendment violation because um, if I see a friend across the street and I say, "Hey, how you doing?" I holler loud. That is loud and it's disruptive. I mean, everyone can hear it. So was it disruptive? Yes. If I holler across the street, "Hey, f you," I don't like you, sucker. Um, that in itself, same noise level. Is just that um the people or an individual officer doesn't like the content of what was said. So same type of interactions, yelling across the street in both situations, yelling at the same noise level in situations. It's just one is different, not because of how loud I was, but because of the content. So if I yell, "Hey, how you doing?" across the street, that is essentially that's disruptive. But um, what and it's disruptive just like cussing across the street, right? But the law treats it differently because of content. That means an officer could hear me yell an f bomb across the street and not care and keep it moving, where another officer could hear me yell an f bomb and it is offensive to him, so now he's going to approach me and I can get a disorderly conduct charge. Of course, there's certain other obvious things that aren't just about what you say; it's your actions as well. Like if you are fighting in public, that's different, right? That's an affray. So if you're causing danger or disturbance or alarm because you're now in a physical altercation, then that is definite without question and disorderly conduct. But when we talk about noise and stuff and utterances, it kind of teeters the line of being a little bit of an overreach. But it's, I'm not bashing uh, this category of crimes altogether. But I'm just saying there's certain situations where cops can have unfettered discretion. Okay, riot. A riot is participation with others in a course of disorderly conduct with the purpose of creating an illegal or committing an illegal act. So, in other words, more than one person, a group of people who are now taken to the streets in disorderly conduct, and we're committing crimes, and it's done for the purpose of committing crimes. A riot, and we want to tear down the city. Knocking down street posts and stuff like that, or street signs. That is a riot. Of course, there's not really much subjective. It's not really very riot is not very subjective. But it can be, because sometimes a peaceful assembly of a large group of people marching together could be characterized as a riot because of the content of what the group of people are saying. So, if the Black Panthers are marching down the street and they're talking about their programs, the food programs, and power to the people, white supremacists who might be a cop might have a difference with that. So they might see it as being noise and it's a riot. Someone who is a supporter might hear them and say, hey, not only do I like what they're saying, I think I want to join and march with them. So there's a difference. No, so it's not a riot because people are gathered. They have to be gathered and committing a crime. So that's a riot, or gathered in furtherance of committing criminal acts. Public indecencies are what we call quality of life crimes, and now these are very important. A lot of these crimes do have racial beginnings. So, public indecencies include crimes that have a detrimental impact on the quality of life. Now, quality of life is kind of a strong wording, in my belief. I think it's all about whether or not something's a nuisance. I call it quiet enjoyment of your space, or your chill time, right? So, vagrancy. Vagrancy is wandering the streets with no apparent purpose. Loitering. Loitering is standing in public with no apparent purpose. These crimes have historically been enforced against individuals viewed as undesirables. Now, this is America we're in now, right? Who was the very first undesirables in this country, in this land? Black people. Specifically, even whether it be during slavery, of course, it was out during slavery, your almost your existence in and of itself was illegal. So being in the wrong place, the wrong time was illegal. If you're black and you're away from the plantation and you don't have papers, like, what is your purpose? So that's and that is that would have been valid questioning back in the day. What are you doing out here, black person? With no apparent purpose. But even after slavery, what happened is, our very existence in some places, in some situations, was still basically illegal because they put in something they called the black codes, which almost made being black and doing anything illegal. Being black and standing on the corner drinking a Pepsi or Coca Cola was illegal. Where you got it? Where are you supposed to be at? Oh, I'm just chilling. Don't have to work today. You have no apparent purpose. You are a vagrant. You are loitering, and we're going to arrest you. Of course, you watch documentaries, read the New Jim Crow by Michelle Alexander. Watch the documentary The 13th, and they talk about how, of course, slavery never really ended. It just changed forms. The 13th Amendment was just nothing more than a transition of slavery from a system where just because of who you are, you can be put into slavery, as opposed to now you have to be classified as a criminal before you can be enslaved. So that's all that the 13th Amendment did. It said, yes, slavery is still very much alive and illegal, but you got to be a criminal. So at that point, um, more laws went on the books than ever just once slavery ended, because now, um, we can, if they have to be criminals for us to enslave them, now we have to create a legal way to almost make their very existence, no matter what they're doing, illegal in and of itself. So just existing is illegal. Being outside, hanging out, we do in our, in our communities, at the corner store, was illegal. It was loitering. So we call them the black codes, be loitering while black. So with these things we're going to talk about, with these public indecencies, equality of life crimes, to get a historical context, just add while black to the end of them. So for vagrancy, it's wandering the streets with no apparent purpose while black. That's what it came. That's where it came from. Loitering, um, standing in public with no apparent purpose while black. Now, of course, America's, dropped the black off of it because you don't want to be super racist and, racist on its face. These crimes historically, like I said, have been enforced against individuals viewed as undesirables. Even to this day, the undesirables, not saying black people are still, I mean, we look at America, we're still pretty much undesirable, but now undesirables usually goes to the class of a person. If a person's homeless or um, dirty, not very good looking, especially in certain cities. Don't I hate to say it about Greensboro, but let Greensboro be having something like. Greensboro will try to pretty itself up for that ACC tournament. They don't do anything for the greatest homecoming on earth. They just take money, but let that ACC tournament. They want to keep that tournament, so they will sweep everything, make the street clean, get all those vacant cars and stuff off the streets. They want to make this place look pretty, and that one time a year, and the ACC doesn't even come every year anymore. So, but when it's coming, they want to make it pretty. They want to get all the undesirables. And it was crazy. I'll call it Operation Arrest the Ugly People. Because the ACC is coming, and especially during my time in the public defender's office, I represented all indigent clients. All my clients couldn't afford their own legal counsel, so I represent a lot of homeless people. So it's crazy. I worked there long enough to see the cycle. Well, here it comes. Arrest the ugly people. And it's crazy how that happens. Now, it's pretty much an operation to take all the undesirables off the street. So these ACC people, the Jim Boeheims of Syracuse, who hates Greensboro anyway, but he can come down here, and at least some of the ugly people are gone, and it looks less crummy. That and using Greensboro as an example, but that happens in other places as well. So the one thing a city does not want visitors to see is their undesirables, but every city has undesirables. So just think about that. In recent years, municipal ordinances have been directed against the homeless and panhandlers, as we were saying before. It is a bad look on a city, or a black eye on the city, when a lot of homeless people are out, or panhandlers are out asking for money. We got company. Why don't you go hide somewhere? That's what essentially the city feels. But a lot of places, panhandlers can actually get a license. It costs like $10 or something like that. Get a panhandler's license, as long as you can, when the police encounter you, as long as you can show him that you have the right to be a panhandler's license. You can panhandle. Now, of course, you can't be banned from the property where you're panhandling. But if you have that license, you can panhandle. A variety of legal strategies have been adopted to control the criminal activity of gangs, ranging from special anti-gang statutes to civil injunctions. So what happens is you hear the keyword gang, and gang and drugs are always keywords that they use to now, like they said, they can't put being vagrant or loitering while black in there anymore, but they can make it loitering while for drug activity. Um, or say he's in the gang. So now when they say gang, of course, now they're gangs of all races, but we know what America means when it says gang. That means young black kids. Um, so ordinances like these and some of these quality of life crimes, they give law enforcement the opportunity to now encounter black people more often. Just if a black person standing on the corner, and now you have all these vagrancy laws. Now I can go see what he's doing there, asking why he's here, and that now creates an interaction. So the purpose of the Fourth Amendment, when it was made, was America had a very bad relationship with, well, it wasn't law enforcement then. It was the British military who occupied the country at the time before we were a country. Um, so a lot of these people wanted to be in their homes, wanted to be on the street and go places without being encountered by these guys with red coats on. It's like, beat it. I'm walking. I'm minding my business. No, I don't want to tell you where I'm going. Go somewhere. Go eat a lollipop. Go eat a lollipop. But get out of my face. That is the nature of the Fourth Amendment, to be left alone. It's not just about search and seizure. It's about me enjoying my day. No, I don't want to talk to you, police officer. Sure, you're a nice guy. I don't want to be a jerk, but not really interested in talking to you right now. Get out of my face. Is that mean? Yes, but the First Amendment gives us the opportunity to be as mean as we can, as long as we're not actually breaking the law or harming someone. No, I don't have any duty to be polite to this officer. I just want to go on about my day. I don't want you to come in to ask me where I'm headed or anything like that. I'm chilling. That's what I'm doing. Um, so, but with these quality of life quality of life crimes, what it does is it now creates a means of officers to now, this is us, this is the officer. Now we're bumping into each other more because that officer now, with these small crimes, they have the right to now investigate more, and get in our business more. And I'm a constitutional purist. I'm just not a fan of being bothered by anyone. So not even my neighbor. Neighbors are cool. They're cool people, but like, if I want to be left alone, I want to be left alone. So, but they use these strategies. They can use these quality of life crimes as kind of as kind of small windows to work their way in to interaction with people. So if these people are young black people who are gathered and assembled, chilling on the corner, and they want to go up to them and say, "Hey, what are you doing?" They use that opportunity. As a matter of fact, North Carolina, there is I know definitely in Guilford County, there's an ordinance called loitering for drug activity. Now, we go back to chapter 2, and I've looked at the crime. There's no good explanation for drug activity. So it is a vague and overbreath crime just in the verbiage itself, because we don't know what drug activity is. I had clients who were actually getting arrested and charged with loitering for drug activity, and they didn't even have drugs on them. No one around them during the time they were encountered by cops after the search no one had drugs on them. They just happened to be in a high crime area or area where drugs were sold, and drugs are sold everywhere. Drugs are sold in nice neighborhoods. I'm in the northwest side of town. I'm pretty sure there's a white boy around here selling weed to the white people that live around here. People sell weed to people or sell drugs to people who look like them. It's definitely a networked a network type of ordeal. People don't just buy drugs randomly. You have a weed guy, and he probably looks like you. Um, so a weed guy or weed girl, women can sell weed too, but they probably look like the people they're selling to, meaning that they're probably the same race. But when we say high crime area, that now pinpoints pretty much where black people live, the inner city, different places. So it almost makes it illegal, and if not quite illegal, at least makes it where a group of black guys standing on the corner having fun, shooting the breeze in the neighborhood they live in, can now be bothered and pestered by police. Now, in real life, are there some groups of black boys who are selling weed on the corner? Yes, I don't deny that. Not saying there aren't some bad things do go on that corner, right? But we also have to weigh our personal freedoms and protections and our rights over um, stopping sometimes harmless crime. At the end of the day, yeah, you want to stop drugs from being sold, but as a community, if we weren't buying that weed, right? So, you're gonna now have these laws to get on everybody's nerves just to stop this one person from getting cracked today. Um, you know, I know it's an insensitive way to look at it, but dude, I wasn't buying crack today, so whether or not that person gets arrested doesn't bother me. I wasn't in the market for crack. So, but just I want you to look and examine laws like that in the future. Um, Now the overreach, and this is when we had talk about the criticism of somebody's quality of life crimes. The overreach of criminal law. There is an ongoing debate over whether the criminal law should punish victimless crimes. Some individuals question whether these offenses should be described as victimless. Um, and like prostitution. Prostitution involves exchanging sex for money, and this is a crime of morality. Essentially, paying for sex. At the end of the day, just like I talked about before with drugs, if I'm not in the market for sex, what do I care? As a citizen, that this other person is buying sex. I don't want to have sex with that person or the person that we're buying sex from. So why do I care? So essentially, it is victimless. It's just a crime of morality. In other words, we're Bible Belt, or we want to create these social mores and standards, and the only reason this is illegal is because we want to set standards, not because there's actually a harm. Um, but that is the question. These crimes are victimless. Who is the victim? Now, if it's prostitution, where this person trying to buy sex from someone, and that someone is being sex trafficked, that's a whole nother story, right? That's that's kidnapping, sex trafficking, and different stuff. But the prostitution itself, the paying for sex, that is something between that person and that other person. Even if they complete it, they commit the crime. They commit the crime. They cash is exchanged and Sex is had. Why do we care? Why do the rest of us care? People have sex. People have sex every day for free, and we don't care about that either. So why do I? Why do we care that person's paying for it? And some would say no sex is free, even married, whatever. It's essentially all being exchanged and bartered for. That's some old the opinion of some old wise man. But none of us care. So why is it even a crime? Matter of fact, some places it's perfectly legal. You go to Nevada, it's legal. No one's bothered by it because it's not my business what they do in the bedroom and what they exchange in return for their bedroom activity. I don't care. Um, so you're clogging up our criminal justice system. Some of these charges are charges that no one cares about because no one is harmed. Not even the people who committed the crime are harmed, but you're charging them with it. But that is the criticism of somebody and of the overreach of some of these crimes. Um, Obscenity. Obscenity is not protected under the First Amendment. What that means, it doesn't mean so obscene when we talk about lewd, naked, or sexual, graphic, information, including pornography. Um, it when we say it's not protected, we don't mean it's outlawed. What we mean is that it doesn't it is highly government is regulated. In other words, so pornography is not illegal, but it is highly regulated. You have to be a certain age to purchase it, to watch it. Now, there's another type of pornography that is, without a doubt, unequivocally illegal, and that is child pornography. That's not even obscenity. That is crime. That is a crime in and of itself. So obscenity, those things, obscenity. If I was to describe obscenity, I would say those things that um, are kind of offensive, sexually offensive, or those taboo things, the thing, that the nudity, the sex and stuff like that. And so it is protected by the First Amendment. So the book says unprotected. It's protected. It's just highly regulated. That's why they say so. That's why they say it's not protected by the First Amendment. It's just not as protected by the First Amendment. Um, so child pornography is entitled to even less protection. I would say child pornography has no protection at all. Is absolutely illegal for good reason. Then we have cruelty to animals. There is a growing movement to protect the rights of animals and to punish the cruelty of animals. So no animal, living animal should be harmed, or humans shouldn't have fun at the expense of animals, right? So that's why animal cruelty, and if you're going to have an animal or have a pet, you got to take care of it, because that pet kind of can't feed itself. Now, in real life, if that pet gets loose or it's a nuclear holocaust, that pet will probably outlive you. That dog will probably roam around and go back to its wolf ways and grow up, and you will die. Um, the dogs, the cats, and the cockroaches gonna all still be living, and they're gonna go back to the wild, and they're gonna be but we gonna be dead if it happens. But while we own the pet, we gotta take care of it though. So that makes sense. Animal cruelty does make sense. Where it does get nerve wracking is when someone is charged for animal cruelty, not because they definitely did something cruel, but because their standard of caring for the animal is below the opinion of the judge or the law enforcement officer. Well, I don't like the way you fed the dog. I don't think there's enough food out here. That's cruelty. But I feed my dog every day. What are you talking about? So some people are in court not because they did something definitely terrible. They didn't pull out a gun and shoot the dog or kick the dog. It's just that how they're caring for their dog isn't necessarily the Taj Mahal of caring for dogs that this judge or this law enforcement officer has in mind. You're supposed to have your dog its own house, and it's supposed to have air conditioning and a food dispenser and everything. The dog should have his own can opener. Some people believe that, pets deserve that. And it's cool. I believe in taking care of pets. But some people are not in court because they actually did something cruel. They're in court because of the opinion, so it becomes subjective again. Now, I've seen cases, I represented people in cases like that where it's like, come on, man, this dude took care of the dog every day. The dog was in the backyard, had his own little fence. The client went away and came back the next day. And I guess when the officers came, it was during that time he was gone. The dog went out there for a long time. I think the dog actually kicked over its own bowl. So the food was out there for the time my client was gone, but the dog kicked it over, right? So it's like my client didn't do anything on purpose and wasn't cruel. There was no definite cruelty. It's just, it happened. So that case was more about the opinion of the court and I guess the law enforcement officer that encountered the dog, as opposed to whether or not my client actually did something cruel or starved the dog or did something bad to the dog. So it just is what it is. So that's a lot of the stuff we talk about in this chapter. The main problem with the overreach is sometimes it gives unfettered discretion because some of these things are not clearly written. They're not really standardized, right? So you can be arrested or be charged just based upon an officer's opinion, not based upon what actually is or is not legal. So that's the only scary thing about the crimes we've talked about in chapter 15. So, as I said before, that's the close of chapter 15. But as I said before, make sure you're reading this material. My lectures are nothing more than supplement to your reading. So you still have a duty to read and prepare. So that being said, that's chapter 15. You guys take care.